to Chatting Shit with Ostique, the podcast where we chat about shit with inspirational people from all walks of life. Today we're joined by the wonderful and incredibly inspiring Holly Fleet, aka Stomababe. We hope you enjoy. So, Holly, thank you for being our first guest. This is so exciting.
I know, I've been really excited about this as well.
Yay, I'm so glad. So welcome to Chatting Shit with Ostique. As you know, this podcast series is where we chat about shit with inspirational people from all walks of life. And you, Holly, aka Stomababe, for those listening, are most definitely a very inspirational person. So we feel really, really lucky and excited to have you.
Thank you. I love the name of the podcast, by the way. I was very inspired. I was very inspired.
Thank you. I love that. Who doesn't love chatting about shit?
Yeah, exactly.
So today's topic is all about sexuality and confidence with a stoma, and we will get into lots and lots of detail about that. But before we do, I just wanted to touch upon what your life was like before your stoma surgery. I know it was about a year ago now. Yeah. So just kind of what that was like for you, who you were as a person before the surgery, and what ultimately led to you needing to have it.
I guess as a person before the surgery, as a person, I've always been quite an outgoing sort of person. You know, I've always loved going out with my friends, very active. But obviously, just like anybody, you know, I have my insecurities and my hang-ups. And particularly, I guess, you know, especially in this social media world that we live in, one of the main things that I would worry about is like how people perceived me. Like, I was really worried about, like, oh, if I put up this certain photo or this certain photo, like, what are people thinking about me, you know, like
what they're going to say.
Like, especially I think as a woman, I think all of us, you know, with stoma bag, no stoma bag, we all worry about how we come across and what do people think about us. And the thing is that a photo is just a photo, and you can show that photo to so many different people, and so many people can come up with different perceptions of a photograph. But a photo isn't a whole person, it's just literally a moment in time, but people can make judgments and perceptions based on a photograph. So of course, you know, I was really heavily thinking about, you know, when I'd be putting up on Instagram, I'd be like, you know, I want to come across in the right way, you know, like, especially because I was at the time, especially before my stoma surgery, you know, I was like applying for a lot of jobs, and I was going into an industry. I wanted to go to the journalism industry, which is like a very male orientated industry. So I was aware that obviously as a lady, a younger lady, blonde hair, likes beauty, likes makeup, likes clothes, that I might come across as a bit of a ditz. And even my boyfriend at the time would say to me, you know, make sure that you're dressing appropriately, make sure this photo, you know, because employers look, right, they go through your social media, they want to see what you're doing here, what you're doing there. And I was always really paranoid, like, you know, of that. So I didn't really ever share too much of myself online. It was very much like curated just to come across in a certain way. And I think when you're starting out in any industry, you've got to be wary of that, because people do kind of look at you and make assumptions, even if they don't know you. Even though we claim to be, you know, more of a like inclusive and tolerative society now, there's still a lot of heavy judgments out there. Oh my God, there certainly is. And especially in male-dominated industries, to be a woman going into those fields is already really difficult to be taken seriously. Yep. But if you're, say, like me, blonde and looking a certain way, it's like almost impossible for anyone to think of you as more than just like this ditzy sort of dumb person. So I think a lot of my time was spent just trying to create what I thought I wanted to, the person I thought I wanted to be. But like I said, I did love to go out, and I had a lot of friends and stuff. So it was kind of like living these two worlds of like, you know, I want to go out, be a party girl, but at the same time, I want to be taken seriously, and like, you know, like balancing all of this difference. It's really, it's super hard to be a woman. I'm always moaning about this a lot to my boyfriend now, but I'm always saying, like, you know, it's because for men, you know, they can get away with doing, I think, a lot more in terms of like, they can go out and drink alcohol, and people think they're a dad or a boy or whatever, and they can still get a promotion and get a good job, and you know, whereas for a woman to, you know, it is a double standard. It's not the same for us.
No, 100%. I think most, if not everyone, can relate to that. I think we've all been there where we don't necessarily know who we are, especially when we're younger, and we don't know which standard that society dictates to hold ourselves to from one day to the next. So I completely understand where you're coming from with that.
And I think obviously then, because before that I didn't have the health worries or any of that, because I only got diagnosed, like I said, a couple of years ago, you know, I was kind of a bit, I guess a bit in a way, a bit lost. And I feel like it's a bit strange, but I think since having the stoma surgery and everything like that, it's kind of given me more of a purpose. I feel like it's given me a sort of a bit of guidance and a bit more like, yeah, I just don't really care about having to try to be something. I feel more like I don't care so much. I want to just be who I actually am. Like, you can kind of like it or lump it sort of thing. Like, I don't feel like I need to, you know, be something else. But then I suppose I have the luxury of thinking like that, because I now obviously have a job, or like opportunities will come my way. Whereas, like I said, when you're starting out, it's just to get your foot through the door. It's just so hard.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really amazing that you found the results of the surgery to be so freeing. Like, for it to have that impact on your confidence is amazing.
Yeah.
Was it because you struggled to feel that you had a particular purpose before that? Or was it that after you had the surgery, perhaps you knew that it had made such a difference to you, you wanted to sort of spread that to others?
It just really opened my eyes a lot, you know. I mean, I think, you know, before in the past, I would feel down about certain things or really hard on myself and this, that and the other. And then once I had this surgery, it was kind of like, firstly, it opened my eyes to a whole new world of like disability that I'd never seen before. And now I'm not just seeing it as the passerby that sees somebody in a wheelchair struggling to, you know, reach for something. I'm now actually in a position where I have a disability myself, and I'm the person who might be struggling to find an accessible toilet. Like, I'm now in that position. So you open your eyes and you start looking at stuff and realizing, like, hang on, how is that happening? Or why is the pavement really lumpy and bumpy for wheelchairs? Why is there not enough wheelchair act? And when you start to see all this stuff, you think, how did you never notice it before? And you realise things. And you think, do you know what? Like, if people like me don't speak up about this sort of stuff, then nothing's ever changed. Because there are a lot of people who are not in a position to be able to speak up and to say certain things, maybe because of their job, or maybe because they don't have a certain amount of following or an influence, you know, that their voice can just get like sort of hidden away,
lost in everything.
Whereas I feel like if you've got, you know, a few followers or things like that, you have like an opportunity to be able to not just post pictures of yourself in bikinis, but you also have a position to be able to give a positive influence and to be able to speak up about certain stuff. 100%. So I think firstly, the stoma surgery opened my eyes to things that I'd never thought about or seen before. And I was like, and I'm always I'm a very passionate person. If I see something and I don't like it, I just can't keep quiet about it. I just have to say it. So all of a sudden I had like this, you know, I was like, I realised there's this whole community of people who have been so mistreated, so forgotten about, and especially with invisible illnesses and invisible conditions particularly, there is so little help for those people financially, in the workplace. There's just so many things that you just wouldn't even imagine. And having an invisible illness or condition is just like the exact same as having a visible one, but you just cannot see it. That's what people don't understand. But yet we are not, you know, we're not able to get anything like a personal independence payment. We don't have access to any of those things that people with physical disabilities are entitled to. And yet we still have to miss work. We still have multiple hospital appointments. I mean, a lot of the people in the community cannot hold down a job. They are too sick, but they are not entitled to any financial help. And it just makes me obviously very, very upset, because it should not be the way that there's like, you know, and especially in the time that we're in the moment with the cost of living crisis, you know. So then obviously there was that aspect of it after my surgery. I was seeing all these different issues, having that sort of passion to want to help, to want to change. But then it was also, I guess, getting messages from people. Like, I'd never had messages before, like I had after my surgery, of like just really positive, lovely support. I'd never had like that sort of, I'd never had people messaging me ever saying like, oh, I think you're an inspiration or anything. I'd never had that before. And I think when people are telling you that or saying that to you, you're like, now I feel like I have a responsibility to them and to other people to
live up to it almost.
To live up to it, because you don't want to let people down. I don't want to let people down. And I also, you know, if you realise people see you as an inspiration, it's like you just suddenly start to think, well, people obviously need this. And then I was obviously just like looking, you know, what I was starting to realise when I was going on like fashion websites or opening up magazines, that every time I was looking at somebody and they were in an advert or a clothing campaign or anything like that, I wasn't seeing anybody that looked like me. And that was a very strange realisation, because wherever I'd always see people that looked like me. And now having a stoma, I was looking and I was like, now I don't have anybody to relate to. This is shit. I hate this. Like, it's depressing, and it makes me feel like I'm a freak. So I'm like, well, if there's nobody that's going to be, if there's nobody, you know, knocking around that's like that, then I'm just going to try my best to get into those spaces so that somebody can look at me and see, oh, look, there's this girl called Holly and she's done this and she's got a stoma bag. And then they'll be like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, just changing the landscape a bit more so that there is that inclusion. Because people say inclusion.
I absolutely love that.
But like, I mean, like,
representation. Being able to see yourself in something, just representation. It doesn't have to be that, you know, inclusive word.
No, that's the thing. And I never used to understand, because I used to read like interviews with certain celebrities and things like that. And maybe if they were like, you know, of a different race or something like that, and they would talk about not seeing, like, you know, growing up and not having a Barbie that looked like them and things like that. And I was just thinking to myself, like, that's really strange. Like, I've never thought about it like that before. But then once I had my stone bag and I started looking at Barbies and things like that, I'm like, hang on, they got a point. All these things are all, and I think now there's definitely more a representation of race, but we still, in terms of like, you know, when you're growing up as a child and the items you're seeing, we're not seeing disabilities yet. They're still not there. We're still not, and they're obviously, you know, I'm fortunate. I'm not like in any way, I mean, I have a disability, but it doesn't make me a victim or of any kind. Like, I'm not trying to say that, but like, I guess if I was a younger girl, maybe, not like I am now, but like, say I was like, you know, I've got a friend called Jessica, she's a young girl, just at school, and she has a stone bag. You know, if I was her age, I can't imagine how I'd feel, you know, when I was getting toys and looking at Disney films and just not seeing myself and just being like, well, how come I'm not allowed to be in this? It's sad.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. It's really sad. And I think what's also really interesting, especially for someone at school age, it's not just about you being able to see yourself, but it's also about your peers being introduced to what's going on with you in a different, so you don't always have to be the one to explain to people what it is.
I completely agree. Like, it's just, I can't, it's just, it's not even just, you know, the image. It's like, you know, physically, obviously you're going through a hard time because you're unwell and you're having to probably miss school and miss a lot of stuff that your friends are doing. And then all of that kind of stuff as well just makes you feel like a little bit isolated. And I think that's what kind of we're just needing to change, is we're needing to start seeing just more inclusion in spaces. And after having my surgery, I just realised, like I said, it's just an eye-opening experience that I just realised what a lack of representation there was. And it felt as though only really in the last couple of years have people even felt able to speak about their experiences, like, publicly. Because I mean, prior to, let's say, I don't maybe know, 2015, something like that, I mean, when would you ever have seen somebody like on a social media site with a stoma bag out or anything? It's literally only been, I'd say, within the last 5-6 years that anything has started to kind of shift in the landscape on social media, in the media, in magazines, on the news, that we've only started seeing and hearing. But yet stoma bags have been around for how long?
I totally agree. And I think it's people like you that's making a massive difference. The fact that you're out there and you look really confident and positive, and you've got this real sort of aura of energy that feels really contagious, and it makes sort of sense that people then engage with your content, and it makes them by proxy almost feel more confident within themselves. So I think you should applaud yourself for the job that you're doing, because you've made a massive difference in that. Off the back of that, I would love to talk about Playboy. Tell me what's going on with that, please.
This is hilarious, because basically, like, I think we all say this, but we all think this, that sometimes our phone just might be listening to us, or like, like, because sometimes you'll be talking about something and it'll come up on your phone. You're like, what? How is that? That's not right. Now, it was like Halloween, and I was going to a costume party, so obviously I was like somebody in like Playboy outfit, la la la, you know, because I wanted to be a Playboy bunny, and yeah, and then all of a sudden, so I ordered a costume, and then I was on Instagram, and I just saw an advert on Instagram, and all it said was like, Playboy are looking for like a new face for their lingerie line or something. You win some money, you get to go to LA, all this cool stuff. So I clicked on it, just read through it, and I was a bit like, I don't know, like, you know, it's one of those things like I would never ever in a million years have considered doing before my Stomababe. But because for me, if I was just doing it before, I would have felt like it was more of just like a vanity thing, like a you know, a bit like vain or a bit, and like I said, I was worried about how everybody would think about me. I'd think like, oh, people are just going to think I'm another blonde girl, just get my boobs out. But I was like, this could be an opportunity. I was thinking like with my sort of like my Stoma hat on, and I was like, this could be an opportunity, you know, like because they're not advertising to somebody with any sort of disability or anything like that. They're just literally asking anybody to apply. But this could be an opportunity, not for somebody with a stoma to be featured in something that they never would have imagined they'd be featured in before. I mean, obviously, you know, when you think about Playboy bunnies, you think of like these super glamorous, like beautiful, mysterious people that don't really exist in the normal realm. But to have somebody like with a Stomababe would just be such a huge. I mean, it would make the brand look great. Let's be honest, because it would show that they are open-minded and it's not just one type of
100%.
person. Isn't that what most brands are trying to achieve these days? Is that they're open-minded and that they're trying to be inclusive. That word, you know. So like, it'd be great for them. It'd be great for obviously the Stoma community because we would be getting ourselves out there. People from across the world, because it's a global brand. It's not even just a British brand. It's everywhere. Everybody knows Playboy. Like. It would be one of those things that it would be massive. It'd be such a milestone step. Now, I don't think I have a shot in hell of actually doing it, but
I disagree.
I just thought, do you know
you
what?
Heard it here first.
It's a bit of a laugh anyway, and it's just like, yeah, it'd be a great experience, you know. But I'm sure they'll probably. Oh God, sorry. I'm sure they'll probably go for the typical kind of glamorous girl that they always go for. Like, you know, like I don't expect anything from it, but. You know, I just thought it'd be cool to apply, and just the fact that I even had the confidence to apply after everything that I've been through, I just felt quite proud of myself for even like applying.
100%, as you should be, and there's absolutely no reason why you wouldn't be selected. You are just as beautiful and have the most unbelievable body as anyone that I've ever seen grace Playboy. So just so you know, I fully believe this will happen.
I'll manifest.
Well, it's happening. I have a question for you about when you dressed up for Halloween in the Playboy bunny outfit. Now, I thought you looked phenomenal. I absolutely loved the photos, and I loved looking through the comments, and people were saying like, you are unbelievable. You look amazing. You're making me feel really empowered. I want to do this. And then the next day I saw you share some stories and you shared some private comments that you'd received that actually were quite cruel and mean. And we all know that trolls exist on social media. It's sad little people that can't say things to your face. But I know that they can be very difficult to deal with. So what I wondered was, how do you deal with things like that? And how do you not internalize that narrative?
I mean, I think it's difficult, isn't it? Like, in a way, you've got to expect, if you're putting yourself out in the way that I do, you're going to get majority positives, especially on Instagram, because my following are people who do follow me specifically because they enjoy my content and they want to connect with that. But the difficulty comes when you go onto sites like TikTok, because it's not a specific following. I mean, I'll put up a video, it will go to all subsections of society. And there might be people on there who like might even hate women just in general, or you know, you're going to all these different people, and of course that's when you're going to get the nasty remarks. So TikTok's like this festering place of hate, and I think the thing is that, like I've said before, the reason why I can be confident and post the pictures that I post and do what I do is because I do have a very strong support system. So, you know, like I've got really supportive family, really supportive boyfriend, and I've got friends who are supportive. I've got that really good support system, so that I feel that if anybody ever writes something about me, I don't take it too personally, because I think to myself, well, you know what, like, because I've got that strong support system, they're always backing me up, and if they thought there was an issue, they'd say, they'd tell me if there was an issue, and if they don't tell me there's an issue, then there's not an issue. So when I see something like that, I just think, well, you know, I mean, what was it she wrote to me? Something about how my kids were going to throw up or be sick seeing their mother in their underwear or something when they get older. First of all, don't assume that I can have children. how do you know what I've been through physically, and if I can have kids or can't have kids? So she just made a generalized assumption about that. And then secondly, I mean, what century are we living in? I mean, even when you're a kid and you go on holiday with your mum, she's wearing a bikini around the pool. What's the difference between a bikini and a lingerie set? Nothing.
Nothing.
And the thing is, as well, is like, I've been raised, you know, in an environment with my parents who are very like open. They're not like, I'm lucky that I didn't grow up in a very conservative household. Everything was talked about. We didn't have any holds back bars. You know, I could go and talk to my parents about anything, you know, even if it was like sex or you know, contraception or anything like that. You know, there was no, because I think that's the best way to be, because then there's no secrets, there's no like, you know, having to scarp around and stuff like that. Like, I always felt
100%.
supported, and therefore you can make better decisions. I think when you grow up in a household where things are not talked about, you can end up making really bad decisions because you're not going to get any help or support to guide you in a better way. So,
I completely agree.
So, like, you know, when this person was saying that, I thought, this is, you know, and I read a little bit more into her, and I was going through her Twitter because I was obviously intrigued about what sort of amazing person she apparently thinks she is. And, you know, she was spitting a lot of venom on there. She wrote something about how people who get cervical cancer have done so through deserve it because they've been promiscuous. You know, and when I started to read things like that, when you start to read things like that, you just think,
you can write that person off, can't you?
Think you are insane. Like, genuinely, you are a hateful, nasty person who's clearly got, and you know, and when you start to see things like that, you just start to think, you just feel sorry for these people. You think, God, imagine walking around having that all going on in your mind. That's really sad.
It must be exhausting.
And the fact she couldn't even just like send, like, just the fact she couldn't even say it to me privately or send me a DM. The fact she had to like write a whole thread on it on her Twitter. I was kind of flattered that she'd gone to such an effort to get my attention to tell me of how shit she thought I was. I was like, fair enough. Like, you really want to let me know how shit you think I am. Is it going to affect me? No. Do I like want to take advice from somebody who thinks people who are dying of a serious illness are promiscuous? No. So I just literally just thought like, and the funniest thing as well is about a lot of these people is they write all these remarks, and it's really weird because I think they want to get attention, so they want you to actually see what they're writing and what they're spitting out. But then they'll have things like their business address on their profiles or like where they work. So then you just drop a little note to their employer and let them know what they're saying, and they can literally lose their jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Is it worth it? Like, if you're going to start trolling people, at least have the decency to do it under a fake account. Like, you've got your whole life on there. I don't know how you can think that that's a good idea. Like, I could never. I know that, you know, for my employer, I can't be writing that sort of stuff on social media. Like, someone will report me. But these people just don't seem to care. It's like they just have almost nothing to lose. So you just feel sorry. Like, that's really sad. You've got literally nothing to lose. You obviously have nothing else. Life.
I think you've made a really good point that actually not everyone's opinion holds equal weight. No. And if someone is like this, really you need to try and disregard it. And like you said, having that support system around you and that tight social circle who will always be honest with you, I think is so important. And for people who are kind of trying to build up their confidence post-surgery, I think that's, I would imagine, would be one of the most important pieces of advice that they could be given.
I mean, if one of my family members messaged me, like say a close family member messaged me and said, I think it's absolutely disgusting that you're doing Playboy and you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself, that would hit me hard. I'd be like, yeah, oh my God. Like I'd feel like that would really hurt. But if it's somebody online with nothing to lose, then I'm just like, nah, I don't care about you. Bye. Like, block.
I love
just
that.
Block. That's the thing. Just block, because they're looking for reaction, looking for. I mean, someone on Twitter the other day said that I'm clearly a man and I'm a transgender person, and you're like, you're just literally looking for an argument. You can clearly see that I'm not transgender, because like you just know I'm not, but you want a reaction and you want to fight, and I'm not going to give it to you. I'm just going to block you because, you know, like, I haven't got the time of day for these sort of people. They're going out of their way because clearly they've got something not right at home.
Yeah, I agree. Not worth your time, not worth your energy. And I think that's a really healthy way to deal with that.
What hurts me the most is that there is younger people on these platforms who are like 16 or something like that, who haven't met, or people who don't have the strong support system and not close with their family, and maybe haven't got like a ton of friends, and they are more vulnerable and prone to being hurt. Because I mean, like I definitely know people who are who, if they were receiving the comments I received, and they wouldn't cope with that sort of, like, those types of comments. They would be really upset, and it would definitely affect them mentally. And there's no shame in that. Everybody is different, and everybody reacts in different ways. And if you are hurt or upset by a comment online, that's perfectly normal, because it isn't nice to see or read about yourself like that at all. And some of these big influencers who've got like bazillion followers, you know, every other day they're getting hatred, cancelled, abuse for just like the most minor things that they say, because everybody is listening and picking and nitpicking to try and find a problem with you. Because it's kind of, we've got to a place, I think, now where it's like nobody wants to see you do well. It's like everybody wants to see, people like to see people fail. I think a lot of the time it makes them feel better about themselves if they see somebody who's doing well have a sudden like dramatic fall. It kind of makes them feel better about themselves. Like, yeah, you can be down here like feeling shit like how I feel. And it is really sad, because it's like, you know, we went to a place where we were like bigging people up and trying to, you know, create like, so like, you know, normal people were becoming these influencers and getting loads of followers and actually achieving all of this stuff, which is amazing. That wasn't possible before. We went from a place where we were trying to get the everyday person to be successful through social media. You know, I mean, there are everyday people who were getting a chance to do brand campaigns that only celebrities have access to before. You know, we went from building people up to get to these places to now we want to tear them down, because we're like, no, you shouldn't be doing well. We're going to bring you down, and that's going to make us feel better about stuff. But it doesn't really. It's like, you know, you get about 2 minutes of satisfaction from probably sending a nasty remark to somebody, which is going to make them feel shit for days. Is it really worth it? Is it worth it? Does it, you know, it's like the other day when someone was slagging off my wig. Like, I bet she felt good saying that to me. It made her feel good. Like, yeah, look at you. You've got no hair. I'm going to tell you you've got no hair and remind you you've got no hair, because it's going to make me feel better about myself. And she sent that to me, and it made me feel terrible all day. Because, you know, especially certain comments can be very personal, and especially if they're on things that you are particularly insecure about. So like the Stomababe, for instance, I'm not even that conscious about the Stomababe. If people say to me, oh, do you shit yourself or whatever, I'm not actually that bothered about that. But there's more insecurities, like my hair is a massive insecurity for me. So somebody comments on that, that really does hurt, because I think for women, particularly, hair means so much to us, because it's something that's always on show. You know, my Stomababe isn't always on show, but my hair is. So when that went,
I can completely get that.
That really hurt, because I spent so long growing it, and I was like, oh, I finally got my hair long, and then boom, it all fell out. And I was like,
that was all wrapped up in the same illness that resulted in you getting stoma surgery, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally. And and the funniest thing was, it was the first sign really that I was really ill, was my hair falling out. And I didn't realise that it was linked in any way at all. It was just weird. Like, I just started to notice gradually my hair was becoming thinner and thinner. And I was thinking to myself, this is really strange. Why is this happening? I've never had this before. But I didn't think at any point that it was to do with the colitis, because I didn't know that they were linked in any way. And then obviously the more I got ill, the more started to come out. And it was only when I was in the hospital and it was just coming out everywhere that I realised, like, literally my hair was the first thing that had been telling me I was ill months ago, because it was coming out, but I hadn't been listening.
That's so interesting that your body tries to tell you different ways that you need to seek help, and you have to almost translate these messages to try and understand.
Yeah,
but let me just say, your hair looks amazing, and please don't listen to people that say things like that. I feel like a lot of the reason why people would feel the need to tear you down is because they're intimidated by your sexuality. Like, as a woman being so forward in that realm, a lot of people can't handle it, and that's their problem. That is not your problem.
No, I completely agree. Like, it's really strange, because I mean, I've always been a very open, confident person around my friends, and my friends are all quite similar to me as well. They're all very like open. So we've always been a very like open group who talk about our experiences, like, you know, and everything. And I guess because I've always grown up around those types of people, I've never thought of it as like an issue, because I'm so used to because growing up, I went to performing arts school. So everybody there was a bigger than life character. Everybody there was like jazz hands, High School Musical. You know, we were all like that. We were all very like, you know, to stand out, you had to be loud and to talk about stuff and not be afraid to say anything. And I guess I start to realise, you know, now, especially when you're getting older and stuff like that, is that actually a lot of people can be really like you said, just really intimidated by that. They can take it in sort of the wrong kind of way.
Yeah, people don't always love to talk about things that they can't kind of express themselves about themselves, but that is not your problem.
Exactly.
In terms of your relationships, you mentioned your boyfriend just gave you a call. Did you meet your boyfriend before or after your stoma surgery?
So it's after my stoma surgery, yeah.
So we had a few people send in some questions to the Ostique account that they would have loved some advice on. And I'm glad that you met your boyfriend after this, because one of the questions was, how, if you've just recently had stoma surgery, how do you broach the subject with a potential sexual partner or for someone you see yourself having a relationship with?
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, I would always say, in any case, that honesty is the best policy. I feel like the more honest you are with somebody about the situation, the more confident they're going to feel about it. If you don't tell them the full picture, they're going to feel nervous or apprehensive. When I first started chatting to, my now boyfriend, and just in the beginning, because we were only chatting like through an app, so we didn't know each other. I didn't want to straight away be like, hey, I'm Holly, I've got a stoma bag, and and my arse bleeds every day, and la 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 la. You don't want to scare the poor bloke off, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So I was just like kind of just chatting normally, and I casually mentioned I've been a bit unwell, been in the hospital a bit. But whenever you say that to someone, they don't know the picture, they just think, oh, she must have had like a bit of a bad cold or something like that. They don't expect you to have been in and have your colon removed. So we're just chatting casually, but the problem is, I guess nowadays, is that because everything's online and everyone searches everybody and this, that, and the other, he found my Twitter account, and then he was on there, and obviously on my Twitter account I had my photos and my hospital stay and everything was on there. So then he obviously messaged me being like, bloody hell, I didn't realise when you said you were in the hospital, like you were in the hospital like that. And I was like, yeah, I just didn't want to go into it all. And then he was like, so you have a bag or whatever. And I was like, yeah. And then I just said to him, like, I completely understand if you don't want to carry on chatting with me. Like, I can imagine it's quite intimidating and like, a bit much to take on. And then he was just like, saying the polite gentleman thing, like, no, it doesn't bother me. I really like talking to you. But, when people say that, you're sort of like, are you just saying that to seem like a nice guy, or do you actually mean it? Because, a lot of people will just say that because they want to come across nice. But we carried on speaking, and obviously I was worried about the whole intimacy side of things because, well, you do, because, when do you ever learn about sex with a stoma? You don't. It's not something they teach you at school, and you don't get. And the stoma nurse, when you've had a massive operation, doesn't come out and say, right, let's talk about sex. It's something that's never spoken about. You're just sort of meant to get on with it, I guess. And you have this perception, I think, because of that there must be something special you have to do, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it must be different how regular people have sex.
Yeah, we have had that question as well. Like, is it different? I'm not even kidding.
I genuinely did think that as well. I think everybody does before they have the surgery. Everybody thinks that it will be different afterwards. I mean, I even thought to myself, like, oh my God, like, I'll never be able to, like, lay on my stomach again because like, I'll feel it, or the bag will burst, or so all this kind of stuff. And you just think that's what's going to happen. It's only really, I guess, once you've got the bag, you've had it for a bit, and you've actually had the experience with it, that you realise that it's exactly the same. There's literally no difference at all. And all of it really is more about your confidence in yourself. It's more about having, so, once my now boyfriend found out I had a stoma, I said to him, what questions do you want to ask? And he had a list of questions that he wanted to ask me. I answered all of them very honestly. And they were mostly just things like, can you go swimming? Can you have a baby? The regular ones that most people ask. And once he answered all of them, he sort of, took it all in and was kind of like, okay, it's not actually it's not as bad as I thought it was. Like, I think people think that it's, I don't know what, that it's like you're literally, you can't do anything. But the whole point of having the stoma bag and why, you have that surgery is to enable you to do things in life. They wouldn't give you a stoma surgery if it was going to mean you can't go out the house. Doctors give you things to help you, not to, make you worse off. So
100%.
And the thing is, I was way more worse off when I had active colitis than I am now. When I had active colitis, I couldn't do anything. I was just lying around, just in pain or asleep because I was so tired from like bleeding all the time, knackered. You know, so now I've got a stoma bag. I'm more healthy, more active. That I can go to the gym and do all those things, which in turn makes you feel more confident to take your clothes off because, you know, if you've been doing some running or some fitness, you're feeling a bit better about yourself. If you're just lying around all the time, you don't feel very confident about your body or yourself.
No, of course you don't. It's really amazing to hear you talk about having that new lease of life with a stoma bag and how much better your life is now in terms of health than it was before, because we've had a lot of people as well asking about kind of the pros and cons, weighing up whether they should have the surgery or not, and they have mentioned that they're kind of suffering every day with pain from Crohn's. And it sounds like you would say definitely move forward with the surgery.
If I had the chance, you know, like I'd say now, you know, if I could go back in time and it was an optional choice for me, because mine wasn't, you know, mine was forced upon me. I didn't have any choice. It was death or the stoma bag for me. So that's a pretty easy choice. But if I had a proper choice of like, you know, there's nothing else working for you, and your inflammation is really bad, you know, what do you want to do about it? I would 100% do it every time. And you know why? It's not even just about sorting the short-term suffering out. It's also about the long-term. Now, I grew up with somebody who was a really close friend of mine who had colitis from the age of 17 until he got to 27. So he'd had colitis for 10 years. And since I'd known him, he'd always been ill. I mean, really bad. In and out of hospital, treatments, nothing ever really worked, nothing. And they were all saying to him, you know, you need to think about having a stoma bag. You need to, you know, because that's really the only thing that's going to help. And he always was like, no, I'm not having a stoma. I'm not doing it. It's like, I'd rather die than have a stoma. And then he got to 27, he had to have a colonoscopy done. And when he had the colonoscopy done, they actually found out that he had cancer, which had developed from the colitis.
Jeez.
And so he began to do chemo and all of that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, last year, he sadly died.
Really, I'm so sorry.
And I think because of that, because I have that experience and of knowing that person, I feel like a lot of the things that people don't talk about with Crohn's and colitis is that it's not just about the disease itself, it's about how it manifests long term. And the sad reality is that this disease can manifest into becoming bowel cancer, colon cancer, rectal cancer, and having a stoma can prevent that from happening. It can be preventative. So even if I was told that my colitis wasn't that bad, but in 10 years' time it could turn into cancer, I'd take the bag every time, because if it's going to give me a longer life, you know, why would you not? Why would you not? Why would you risk? Why would you play with fire? And that's what it is. When you're leaving colitis or Crohn's untreated, you are playing with fire every day. And I tell people this when they talk about having a temporary stoma and saying, you know, that their rectum's still bleeding really badly, but they don't want to have another surgery. I'm like, yeah, but would you rather have another surgery, stop the bleeding and prevent yourself from getting rectal cancer? Or would you rather just put up with the bleeding every day to avoid having another surgery and then get rectal cancer? I mean, it's literally a no-brainer in my eyes, you know? And I think it's something that isn't spoken about enough. It's not just about the pain you're going through. It's about the future. A stoma can give you a future if you're living with these illnesses.
I think that is such an important point of view. And thank you so much for sharing that about your friend. I'm so sorry that you went through that and for your loss. That's awful. But being able to spread awareness about that, because I, for one, did not realise that could happen as a result of Crohn's and colitis. So that's really, really, really important for people to understand. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, no, like it's one of those things and it's really weird how everything happens. Like, you know, I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And he passed away in January, and I'd only been diagnosed literally the year before. So we spoke a little bit about it, but not like because he wasn't that well. So we didn't talk too deep about my problems. But like when I did start to get really ill and I was in that hospital and they said to me about the stoma and everything, all I could think about was like him and thinking like, it's almost like I could hear him saying to me like, Jesus Christ, get the bag. I wish I'd have done the same. Like I wish I had. and and then thinking about if he had the bag, how he'd still be here. I was just like,
yeah.
it's like it's like he's, and I felt so secure in the decision because I just felt like he was watching over me the whole time. And so now I'm really passionate about just like, I don't want anybody else to what happened to my friend happen to them. I don't want anybody else to choose dying over a stoma bag. It's just not worth it. It isn't.
No, it's not at all. And I think the fact that he was able to pass that message to you and you're able to pass it on to so many other people really is a blessing to come out of something so tragic.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well. And like, because obviously it was lockdown and all that stuff, so I was like, couldn't even have a funeral. We couldn't do none of that stuff. It's like, and then I was, like, there was just it was absolutely awful. It's something that will all stay with me. And I just think, I think that's a part of the reason why I do what I do now, because it's like, I just want to make him proud and him to be like, because I know, because he was a bit like me, like he was a very larger than life, crazy. He was a model. He had a big career. He'd model for like big campaigns.
Amazing.
And I think if he could see me doing all of this stuff, he'd be like, shit, like you can actually do all this stuff. Like with a, he might have changed his mind if he'd have seen somebody like me or a guy like him doing this stuff. And I'm really passionate about like men talking about it as well, because that's the thing, we don't have enough men talking about this stuff.
No, we don't.
And that's the reason why men are feeling like my friend were feeling so isolated and so like against it. It's because where are the men talking about this stuff? They feel so embarrassed and ashamed, and there's no reason to be, because women are I think most of us are quite understanding, and we're not bothered about it. I wouldn't give a rat's ass if my boyfriend had a stoma bag. It wouldn't bother me at all. We care more about what's on the inside, We want a guy who's kind person, not just somebody who looks good, and you still look good with a stoma. I mean, some of the guys I follow, they are fitter than the guys without stoma. I mean, I don't know if you see like guys like Flood Goldie Jules at the gym, Mr. Crocoditis, IBD Life, and they are looking so
living their best lives. Yeah,
they look amazing. And even it was funny when I was in the hospital, my friends all find out I was having a stoma bag. They all started following like stoma accounts to see like other people. And one of my friends, his name's Jack. I think he followed like IBD Life and he's like, cool, he's fit. And I was like, people can be attractive with stuff. Like, I just think it's like, of course they can. Bag, you're not like attractive, but these guys, they look great. They really do, and they're such a credit to that, because it is such a small section of men that speak about it. There's quite a few women. There's like loads of women that I talk to, but men, it's really hard.
It is. There's definitely a lot fewer men talking about this, but hopefully if any of them listen to this conversation, they'll know how important it is for people to be able to look them up and coo over them. So
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's hilarious. My friends love it. They, they just like it. It's really opened their eyes, and I don't know. Like, I just think that people. I've said this as well. Like, when you think of somebody with stoma, you just have this image in your head of someone really old, like super and like immobile, and that's just not. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some older people and immobile people that do have stomas. I mean, that is, and actually, it's really hard. It's a lot harder for them because when I was in the hospital and I was in a ward, I was around people who are, in their 80s and their 90s, just coming out of stoma surgery, and it was awful. They really struggle because when you're older and you're not so agile to be able to do all that, and also like, you don't have like what I can just go on my phone and ask somebody like, oh, how do I do this, or what can I do? But they don't have that system. They're not on Instagram or TikTok. Who do they message? And a lot of them will live on their own, so they won't have much help. I came out of hospital, went home to my mum's, and she helped me out with the stoma bag and things like that. But if you haven't got that, it's so hard. But yeah, there are older people, and I know the majority are older people, because we know that from statistics. That actually, I was really surprised. I think it's Ostique that shared the graph where it said only 2%, I think 1% or something, are people under 30 that have. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Because I feel like I know so many people on Instagram now. I'm like, how can that just be 1%? Yeah, like, I feel like there's loads of us now. Yeah. But yeah,
crazy. Oh, Holly, thank you so much for everything. You've been so open and honest and sharing, and just exactly what we'd hope for on this podcast. So I really appreciate all of your time.
Oh, lovely.
I'd love to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
I know you've been wearing and trying our Ostique skins, and I just wanted to know what you thought about them, really.
Yeah, I really, really, really love them. And I love them because, as I said previously in one of my posts, I like to wear colourful lingerie stuff. I'm not really a black and white sort of person. I'm a colourful person. I like pink. I like pink a lot.
Seen it. Love it.
So when I saw the pink colour, I was like, oh my God, such a bit of me. Like, because it kind of represents my personality and like how I am. And also it's great because I know as well, some of my, I don't know, do you ship to the States or anything like that?
Yes.
Yeah. See, this is what's fantastic. So I get loads of messages from people globally, and they always say to me, we can't get like the coloured bags or anything like that. So the fact that they could be able to get hold of those will be such a game changer for them, because we also take advantage in the UK how fortunate we are to have all of these brands at our fingertips and
100%.
for free. I mean, it's crazy. But in abroad, there's very limited options. They have to pay for prescriptions. It's really difficult, and they don't have the opportunity to have all these lovely things like we do here. So this is like a chance for them to be able to order stuff and feel a bit more confident about themselves, particularly younger people, because they will encourage them to be able to take their clothes off, really. If they're on holiday, around the pool, in the bedroom, wherever they're at, it's going to make them feel a lot more. It's nice because it's like got a thicker material, so you really feel like nothing's going to like get through there, and nothing's going to like show like any like stains or anything like that. I mean, even sometimes my fake tan gets on my Stomababe, and that's annoying. I mean, it comes out when I get in the shower, but like sometimes it's got like brown marks in it,
like a smear down the side.
Yeah, and I think, Christ, that's just shit coming out of it. But genuinely, it's literally just my fake tan. And I'm like, it's really annoying. But if I put on one of those bags over the top of it, then you can cover that up quite nicely. So it is really handy that you can just slip them on as well, like after you put the bag on, and then you can take it off if you want to. You can do whatever you want with it. And
oh God, I'm really pleased.
It feels really luxurious as well. It feels like, like when you get a designer handbag out, it's like a designer handbag but for a stoma. And I just
our design department are going to be thrilled that you said that, because that's what they were aiming for.
Really? Oh my God, no, genuine. First thing I thought when I got out and I was feeling, I was like, it feels so luxurious. It really does feel like when you get like a nice fancy bag and you're like,
oh my God, they're going to love this.
They're going to love that.
With them. Well, Holly, thank you so much for everything. Good luck with your podcast. Do you want to just let everyone know what it's called before we go?
Yes. So I have my podcast. It's called Chronic Illness and Me. And as I was saying earlier, after my stone surgery, my eyes were open to this whole world of people living, working, playing with chronic illness. And so I kind of thought I'd start up a podcast where each week we would talk about a different chronic illness, and some of them will be lesser known chronic illnesses and some of them will be more widely spread, but it would always be with somebody who's got a bit of influence, either somebody on social media or a celebrity, or just basically somebody who like people can look up to and see that they are achieving amazing, incredible things while living with a chronic illness. So this week we had on Chris, who is, living with terminal cancer, and he's been raising the most insane amount of money for charity. He's climbing Everest next year, doing 2 marathons.
Amazing.
Like doing all of this absolutely amazing stuff while, living with something that most people would be like, oh my God, I'm going to lock myself in my room. I've got cancer. That's it. I don't want to do anything. That's what I would be like anyway. But this guy's just like, I'm going to get out there and do some good with it as well. So that's amazing. So yeah, we have a episode out every week on a Monday, and the Instagram page is chronic illness _and me. And I'm always looking for people to come on as well who've got something really interesting to say. I've actually got someone coming on next week, I think it's next week, who actually we were in hospital at the exact same time together, and she was on she was on my TikTok page while I was in the hospital, and she had gone into septic shock on Christmas Day and was in a coma, and they were an hour away from turning off her life support. And eventually she started responding to the medication, woke up, her arms and her legs were black from sepsis. She ended up having to have her hand reconstructed, but now she's had 2 of her legs removed from the knee down, and is now trying to raise money to get prosthetic legs.
Oh, wow. So you're going to have her on and help that kind of fundraising.
Yeah, so I'm
for
having
her
her on. But
That's amazing.
She's on TikTok. She's got like, her name's Sadie. I think it's like it's Sadie's Journey or something, no, Sadie's Sepsis something. But she literally is on her TikTok, you know, and she's always like, she's always smiling. She's always radiant, and she just like takes the piss out of her having a shark hand, because they sort of sewed it together so it looks a bit like a shark's. I don't know what it is, but like, you know, you see things like that, and it makes you smile, and it makes you think like, no matter what happens in life, you can always find joy, you know. And like, it's just, I think she's just such an inspirational person of how she's coped and overcome it and told her story. So yeah, she'll be probably one of the other people podcasts. So like I say, I'm always looking for different stories. Beautiful. I'm always sorting through social media, trying to find people to come on. So yeah, you can always drop me a DM if you fancy it.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you so much, Holly. And we hope to see you soon.
No worries. Hope to see you soon. Bye.
Bye. Have you seen the new Ostique skins yet? Ostique skins are revolutionary ostomy pouch covers that were created to make the wearer feel confident, sexy and powerful in all of life's moments. From moments of intimacy to lounging by the pool, conquering a workout or simply heading out to lunch, skins have you covered. Even better, they're compatible with all major colostomy and ileostomy bags. Ostique skins are available in a range of colours and skin tones, and they're made from a revolutionary material that's completely waterproof, high quality, soft and comfortable. Skins are easy to use, even with reduced dexterity, and they work with both closed and drainable bags. Plus, skins are also environmentally friendly and vegan. There are 4 bundles available to buy now, and you can also purchase individual skins. Head to ostique.co.uk to find out more.